So if you've ever been injured in Scotland and even thought about making a claim for compensation, the whole legal process can feel like a total mystery, right? It's like this big, intimidating black box. Well, today we're going to pry that box open and show you exactly what's inside, step by step.
You know, when we think of a courtroom, our minds immediately jump to all those dramatic TV shows. You've got tense lawyers, witnesses dropping bombshells, and a jury on the edge of their seats. But for most personal injury claims here in Scotland, that picture, well, it couldn't be more wrong.
The reality is actually way less theatrical and much more focused. The vast majority of these cases are handled in a place that's been designed specifically for them, the sheriff court. For anyone who's been injured, this is where the real work of justice actually gets done.
So let's dive into that. We know it's nothing like what you see on TV, but what exactly is this specialist court? Well, it's a really key part of the Scottish legal system, and it's been specifically set up to handle personal injury cases with expertise and, really importantly, efficiency.
Now, the sheriff court itself isn't new. In fact, the office of sheriff goes back centuries in Scottish legal history. You can think of these courts as the real workhorses of the justice system, located all across the country to make sure everyone has access to the law.
But here's where things get really interesting. See that modern change? Back in 2014, a major reform completely changed the game. It created a dedicated, centralized court just for personal injury cases. It's officially called the All Scotland Sheriff Personal Injury Court, but you'll often hear it called ASPIC for short.
And why does that matter so much? Well, for a start, it creates this incredible hub of expertise where the judges, the sheriffs, become total specialists in this area of law. The whole process is streamlined for efficiency. It can handle a case no matter where the accident happened in Scotland, and there's no cap on the value of the claim. It's all about getting it right and getting it done efficiently.
Okay, so you and your solicitor have decided to move forward with a claim. How does a case actually get started? What is that very first formal step you take? Let's break it down.
Everything kicks off with this document right here, the initial writ. Seriously, you can think of it as the official starting pistol for the entire court case. It's the formal document that lays out your whole claim for both the court and the person you're claiming against, who's called the defender.
And the process is very methodical. First, your solicitor drafts that writ. Then they file it with the court. After that, it gets legally delivered to the defender. And finally, the defender gets their chance to formally respond with a document of their own, which sets out their side of the story.
All right, the case has officially started. But hang on, you don't just go straight into a courtroom. There's a really crucial preparation phase that comes next. This is the path to the final hearing, which in Scotland is known as the proof.
Now, a huge part of what makes this court so efficient is how much control it has over the process. A sheriff will set a very firm timetable for both sides to share all of their evidence. We're talking things like medical reports and witness statements. And your solicitor handles all of this, making sure every single deadline is met.
But, this process does take time. And that brings up a really urgent and very real question for a lot of people. What if you're out of work because of your injury? What if you're struggling with money right now? How are you supposed to cope while you wait for the case to finish?
Thankfully, the system has an answer for that. And the source material puts it perfectly. You do not have to wait until their bitter end to get some financial help. This is where something called an interim payment comes into play.
So here's the deal. If it's pretty clear that the other side was at fault, your solicitor can go to the court and ask them to order an upfront payment, a portion of your final compensation paid early. For so many people, this is an absolute lifeline. It helps cover lost wages and medical bills while the main case is still going on.
Okay, let's get to the part that probably makes people the most nervous, the final court hearing. But remember, in Scotland, we don't call it a trial. The proper term for it is a proof. So who's actually going to be in the room with you? Well, it's a surprisingly small and professional group. You'll have the sheriff, who is the judge, then the lawyers, you, as the pursuer, and any witnesses. But look at that last point, because it is absolutely crucial. There is no jury. The sheriff, and only the sheriff, decides the outcome. So what actually happens at the proof? Well, this is your chance to tell your story, to give evidence about the accident and how it's impacted your life. Other witnesses will do the same, and all the documents get reviewed. It's simply a very structured, very methodical way of presenting all the facts to the sheriff.
And this is just so important to get your head around. The goal here isn't drama, it's clarity. The sheriff's job is simply to listen to all the evidence, figure out exactly what happened, and then apply the correct law. It's a professional, fact-finding environment, not a sage for a play.
So the proof is over, and the sheriff makes a decision. But that's not quite the end of the story. We still need to talk about the verdict, and, just as importantly, we need to talk about the legal costs.
In Scotland, we have a principle called expenses follow success. So what does that mean? Well, basically, the person who loses the case usually has to pay a portion of the winner's legal fees. It's a fundamental rule of how our civil justice system works.
But, and this is a big but, here's the fine print. The amount that the court awards almost never covers 100% of the legal bill. There's usually a shortfall, and that is exactly why it is so essential to understand the terms of your no-win, no-fee agreement with your solicitor right from day one.
You know, I think this quote from the source material just sums it all up perfectly. The sheriff court is not an intimidating institution. It's a modern, well-organized place staffed by professionals, and it exists for one reason: to resolve disputes fairly and efficiently. It's a tool for justice.
So, now that we've laid out the entire roadmap, from that very first document all the way to the final decision, what part of that journey feels a little less intimidating to you now? Our goal today was to crack open that black box so you can approach the system not with fear, but with a real understanding.
Thanks for joining us.